Ukraine kept up its heavy drone assault on Russia, setting fire to a major oil refinery in the south, as President Vladimir Putin acknowledged for the first time on Sunday that the country was facing a certain deficit of fuel and vowed to strengthen protection of oil facilities and boost fuel output.
Как я уже сказал, ущерб есть, но все поврежденные объекты довольно быстро восстанавливаются, и возникающие проблемы критического характера не носит. Все у нас работает стабильно и с большим запасом прочности.
Speaking to a Russian state TV reporter, Putin described the Ukrainian attacks on oil refineries as an attempt to cause a split in Russian society and force Russia to halt. He also said that Ukraine has proposed a halt on deep strikes, arguing that Kiev made the offer because Russian strikes deep into Ukrainian territory are more powerful and devastating. The Russian leader added that Kiev also offered to limit the fighting to the 4 regions that Russia annexed but never fully captured: Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson and Zaporizhia. He rejected the proposal, arguing it would allow Ukraine to relocate its forces.
The EU Civil Protection Mechanism has sent 700 rescuers and experts from 12 countries to find more than 68,000 people still missing following devastating earthquakes in Venezuela. Experts say the first 72 hours after natural disasters are the key narrow window for finding the living. After that, the search becomes one of recovering bodies. At the end of Saturday, authorities reported that the death toll had reached 1,430, with more than 3,200 people injured. In total, 24 countries from around the world have sent 521 tons of supplies, 86 units with dogs trained to locate people trapped beneath the rubble, and more than 2,700 search and rescue personnel, according to Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said she had held a call with Rodriguez to convey European solidarity and the mobilization of €5 million in emergency assistance. In addition, Pope Leo XIV prayed on Sunday for the hundreds of Venezuelans who died in the quakes and reiterated support for the victims' relatives.
Thousands of guests traveled down to Brussels on Sunday to celebrate the 250th anniversary of US independence. The invite-only event is held in a large park in the Belgian capital, which is located near the EU institutions.
And everyone gathered in Brussels to celebrate 250 years of American independence.
US Ambassador to Belgium Bill White opened the ceremony. Among those attending are Belgian Prime Minister Bart De Wever, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, and European Parliament President Roberta Metsola. And US military personnel based in the Belgian capital are also in attendance. However, the event drew widespread criticism. On Sunday morning, Greenpeace unrolled a massive banner in the city centre, condemning the occasion to promote Trump's political and corporate agenda. And several organizations, including Extinction Rebellion and Rise for Climate, demonstrated outside of the park in protest against the privatization of the public park.
France has recorded around 1,000 more deaths than expected since Wednesday, as a record-breaking heatwave struck much of Western Europe for days. The agency said areas under red alert for heat had been particularly badly affected, and 85% of the deaths had been those aged 65 and over. Parts of France have topped 40 degrees this week, piling pressure on hospitals and first responders amid a surge in emergency call-outs. Temperatures soared to record highs across Europe this week. According to the latest forecasts, they remained particularly intense on Sunday in Germany, the Czech Republic, Hungary and Poland, while they slowly began to ease across the Netherlands, Belgium and France. Germany experienced its highest temperature on record of 41.5 degrees on Saturday afternoon, while Danish authorities said temperatures had reached 37 degrees, the highest since records began in 1874. Scientists have shown that recurring heat waves are a clear marker of global warming driven by humans burning fossil fuels, and warn they are set to become more frequent, longer, and more intense.
This is the rooftop of the Associated Press office here in Paris, and we're going to try a little experiment. This is a thermometer that I usually use at home in the kitchen to tell me whether my roast chicken is ready or not. It has the advantage of going up to high temperatures. Now out here in the sun, the thermometer's giving me a reading of 34 degrees. That's approaching about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But let's see what happens when we put it on some zinc and see whether that reading changes. 43, 44, 45. Now I've left this up here for a couple of minutes and we're up to 48 degrees Celsius.
Get as little as possible. It's been the worst week that we've had in this apartment. It started off okay. I thought it would be short, and the problem has just been that it doesn't recede even in the evening, so you don't even get that time to have some cool air and to pretend it's not there before it comes back. And this particular apartment, because of the fact we have only one window and because of the fact it gets light from about midday to when the sun sets, which here is like 10 p.m., it means it's just baking in the whole afternoon and it's impossible to just get a respite from it.
Just has to do, first of all, with the color, which is dark blue, which means that it clearly, instead of reflecting light and reflecting heat, it actually traps it within itself. And because there's probably a lack of insulation, because these are pretty old buildings, like the apartment is recently renovated. But one of the biggest sources of emissions in France and in Europe is buildings, not only construction materials and everything and construction processes, but mainly from using energy to cool down or heat up the buildings because they're not well insulated.
Several Iraqi political officials were arrested early on Sunday on corruption charges, Iraq's state-run Iraqi news agency reported. The arrests were reportedly based on a statement made by the former deputy minister of oil who was arrested last month. Iraqi security forces carried out raids inside the heavily fortified Green Zone compound that houses key government institutions and foreign embassies. The arrests are likely to have ripple effects across Iraq's fractured political landscape, where accusations of corruption frequently intersect with rivalries over power and influence.
History has returned to where it belongs. More than 80 years after the horrors of the Nazi concentration camps, 4 Greek families received the personal belongings of their loved ones who perished in these death camps. The items had been preserved for decades in the Arozen archives, the largest international repository of documentation on Nazi crimes, which holds more than 30 million documents and thousands of personal belongings of victims of Nazi persecution. With perseverance and deep respect for history, middle school and high school students searched for traces of the victims' families. A wallet containing a few coins, a ring and a pocket watch with its chain were the only belongings that survived from the life of Dimitris Vafiadis. Thanks to an investigation conducted by students at the Second General High School of Koropi, his nephew Dimitris Vacharelis was eventually located.
Τα λόγια βγαίνουν με το ζόρι. Ήταν μια δικαίωση πρώτα για αυτούς και μετά για μας και ιδιαίτερα για τη μάνα μου που ξεκίνησε την προσπάθεια. Ελπίζω να μας βλέπει, να μας ακούει, να ησυχάσει γιατί έφυγε με αυτό το παράπονο του χαμένου αδερφού.
A watch, a silent witness to a life cut short, has been returned also to the family of Giorgos Agmatopoulos. With the help of a student group from the 7th Junior High School of Nea Ionia, his sister's granddaughter, Panayota Galani, was located.
Είμαι πολύ συγκινημένη. Δεν το περίμενα μετά από πόσα χρόνια να έρθει στα χέρια μου ένα κοιμήλιο και σήμερα μαζί με μένα βρίσκεται και η αδελφή του Γιώργου Σαγματόπουλου, Δεν είναι ζωή, αλλά θα ήταν πολύ συγκινημένη και πολύ χαρούμενη. Θυμάμαι τη γιαγιά μου που είχε ψάξει, δεν μίλαγε όμως για αυτό το θέμα, για τον αδελφό της, αλλά όποτε μίλαγε, δάκρυζε.
Students who participated in the research demonstrated that memory can remain alive when passed on to the younger generation.
Για μένα ήταν ένα ταξίδι ψυχής. Ήταν σύνδεση με τους ανθρώπους αυτούς και φυσικά για να το κάνεις όλο αυτό πρέπει και ο ίδιος να ανακαλύψεις πράγματα για τα δικά σου τραύματα αλλά και την προσωπική ή οικογενειακή σου ιστορία και μνήμη.
Με την απόδοση των τελευταίων αντικειμένων, η Ελλάδα έγινε η πρώτη χώρα που κατάφερε να εντοπίσει τις οικογένειες και των 9 θυμάτων ναζιστικών στρατοπέδων, των οποίων τα προσωπικά αντικείμενα φυλάσσονταν στα αρχεία Άρολσεν. Έτσι έκλεισε ένας κύκλος 80 ετών αναζήτησης και ιστορικής αποκατάστασης με μεγάλη συμβολική αξία. Από την Αθήνα για το euronews, Φέη Δουλγέρη.